That I do know. My family did have land, and I know my uncle, my mother's. How do I put it? My mother's brother. We had land in Mississippi, and in order to get money and all this other kind of stuff, he sold it behind the family's back. And now, I mean, I don't have like the full history of how we acquired the land and all that good stuff, but all I know is that now there's like a huge rift in the family because of um, his wrongdoing, if you will. And the same happened on my dad's side of the family. Like his sister sold the land, and thankfully I was able to stay on the land for a little while, just to on a vacation, I would say, to Louisiana, and I got to see what it was like for my dad to grow up and everything. And to be completely honest, to see him now and to understand where he came from very humble beginnings. And I would say, like, it's interesting because he had this literally 2-room house with kitchen, whatever, but the plumbing system didn't work. So what they had to do as kids is they had to, for restroom and things like that, they had to go outside and dig a hole in the ground and use the restroom that way, and then cover the hole. And so that was very humble. And then with my mom's side, she grew up on the south side of Chicago, and she grew up running from the hoodlums and stuff that were around at that time. So it's two different stories, and how they came to be today, where they're very well off and that kind of stuff. But they both had different struggles. One was the country, one was the city, and exactly, yeah. So my name is Ashley White Briscoe.
Oh, it's hyphenated.
No, it's not changed yet. I haven't changed it yet.
Did you change your name, Justin?
Yeah, did you change your
No,
name?
I didn't change
No,
my name.
not yet. Okay.
It remains Justin Richard Briscoe.
Yeah, so Ashley Nicole White Briscoe. And where are we from? I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois.
I'm originally from Diamond Bar, California, suburb of LA County, but Inland Empire primarily.
What? Inland Empire?
Inland Empire.
What's that? What's that?
It's just a county outside of.
Oh, it's actually called
Yeah,
Inland.
Yeah.
Inland
I
Empire.
thought that was some like.
Yeah,
slang
it's like
term.
right before San Bernardino County. Yeah.
What did y'all got going on over there?
No.
Inland Empire.
No.
Like, y'all
Good old
just-
suburban town, very
Empire.
diverse. Yeah. But yeah, my mom's side of the family originally from Blairsville, Pennsylvania, country town, about 2 acres of land, very rural, not much going on. Everyone was kind of spaced out, and so that's really how they grew up in Pennsylvania. I would go there as a child, kind of experience a country life with farming, kind of getting an idea of how they grew crops, and from an agricultural standpoint, something I look forward to in the summer growing up on
You
that
wanted to
side.
farm?
Yeah,
You look forward to that?
yeah,
everybody I know never
because I'm from the city.
I like that
Yeah.
too.
From the city, so just getting exposure to living differently than what I'm accustomed to. So that was an experience. They had a couple neighbors. Look forward to. So about between the ages of 7, I'd say 7 and 13 years old, I'd go there every summer, take a ride down from New Jersey, where my grandmother stayed growing up, in Orange, Jersey, but originally from Blairsville, Pennsylvania. So we'd go up, take a 5-7 hour drive up the turnpike, me, my grandmother, my grandfather, and I just enjoy the country living.
You worked on the farm?
No, I was a kid,
Oh.
man. I was running around playing outside with the local neighbor. They had a young kid, and going swimming, riding bikes around the countryside. Yeah, I didn't work on the farm. I saw the farm in the back, and I saw these tractors, but I wasn't the one working it all.
You went up there picking.
I wasn't picking any strawberries or any corn, but it was just a good time. It was a good time. On my dad's side, my dad's originally from Missouri, St. Joe, Missouri, right outside of Kansas City. I didn't really grow up learning much about his side of the family, I may have gone to Missouri maybe twice as a kid. Really, my 5th grade, when I was in 5th grade, I remember going up and meeting my grandfather on my dad's side for the first time. But, you know, that from his experiences, he grew up in poverty. He had quite a few brothers and sisters, so aunts and uncles was something that family were very tight-knitched. And, you know, he struggled quite a bit growing up in Missouri and working his way ultimately to California after he came back from service in the Vietnam War. So he was in the Army and really followed his older brother, my Uncle Don, from Missouri to California. So that's at that point, that's where my parents met in California. My mom migrated from New Jersey, Orange, New Jersey. My dad migrated from St. Joe, Missouri. And that's where they developed their union, and then of course had me and a couple other children.
So you guys brought up some interesting things. Like,
Okay.
You guys brought up the fact that you got family from the South and family from the Midwest. Kansas City and Chicago,
Pennsylvania.
and Pennsylvania, because your dad's right outside Kansas City, Pennsylvania, and you're
My mom is Chicago, and my dad's
So my
Louisiana.
mom, Pennsylvania. My father, right outside of Kansas City, St. Joe, Missouri.
okay. So you said that your dad went to the Vietnam War,
He did.
and
My dad also, but
your dad also
Air
Yeah.
Force.
Air Force Army.
Air Force Army.
So the military was pivotal in giving them direction and possibly. And is that what brought them to California, or because you said they kind of migrated? Was it after the military came?
Well,
to
my dad
California?
migrated to California after the military, his
Okay,
time in service,
Gotcha.
and he followed the footsteps of his older brother, who actually ventured out of the country to a better life in California.
Okay.
And they saw him being successful, kind of working his way into, you know, his job.
Yeah.
And then everyone from all of his siblings migrated from Missouri to California. Well, the majority of them did.
sorry, my nose.
Okay.
And then my dad, he actually was tired of the life in Louisiana and decided, you know what, I want a better life. So he decided to go migrate to California. So, yeah.
So
For my mom, I think it was rough. And I wouldn't say rough as like, oh, you know, you had to eat beans out of a can and all this other kind of stuff. No, and no offense to anyone who has to have that happen. But she did hold her own, you know. I would say, okay, for instance, there was one time when she and her friend were coming from the grocery store or something, like getting candy or something like that, and then two guys like came up on them and stuff like that, and they had to kind of run and fight them off, whatever, and run or whatever. And but she said that was not like the normal life, but she had to do that more than once. You get what I'm saying? And so from what I gather from what she told me, she didn't live in poverty though, but I do remember my grandmother moving the family to Markham, Illinois, which was the suburbs, for a better life.
right.
So it was my mom and her two siblings that moved. And it's interesting because in that move, the better life turned to be not the best for her two siblings, but my mom flourished. So it's weird. It's like it's not. It's the case of you can be from whatever environment, but it's what you make of it. You know what I'm saying? And my dad, his grandmother was the one who raised him in Louisiana, and his mother was actually in Chicago. So his mom was the one who had the land. I mean, his grandmother was the one who had the land and stuff like that. But I don't remember anything else really. I mean, I'm sure it's more that he hasn't said, but I don't remember much at all.
I understand.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys, do you, in your family, do you guys pass down like photo books, any type of stories and writing, anything historical? You guys keep a record of things?
No.
No.
Go ahead. My cousin in Chicago is actually just now starting to do that.
Right.
So she's just she's doing it via Facebook. So basically, like any historical documents that she finds, like any photos or anything like that. Like for instance, apparently my great grandmother was a white woman. I don't know much about her, but she was a white woman, and she was married to this tall, skinny black man. I guess that was my great. I don't know, but anyway, I got some white there somewhere. It's not apparent, but I got some somewhere. But anyway, but that's all I know, and that may not even be true, So.
Okay. You were gonna say
I was saying, as far as documents being passed down or photos, like there's quite a few documents I have of just me growing up in New Jersey. Because I told you my grandmother migrated from Blairsville, Pennsylvania, to raising my mother and my uncle in Orange, Jersey. So when I would go during the summertime, she would always be. She loved to entertain. She would always have people over, and they'd play cards. And me, just my involvement, I would act like I was, their server, making sure they're having fun, entertained, walking around, making sure they would have something to drink, they'd have something to eat, making sure everyone was comfortable. So there's a lot of photos taken of me walking around and just making sure everyone's enjoying their company. They'd always laugh, and it was like a weekly, like a weekend thing that they'd always come around. So I was able to grow up with my grandmother in the summertime, as well as a lot of her friends and different personalities that she surrounded herself with. Okay. So that's something very memorable. Also, with my grandfather, our interest was baseball. So I would grow up, I used to collect cards, trading cards, baseball cards, football, basketball, just sports cards. And being from New Jersey, his team was the Yankees. So that was really our connection, where I was playing sports growing up, and he understood that I was interested in sports. I would sit on his lap every Yankee game, and we would talk about sports, and he'd break down the players and the interest of just baseball in general.
5. Just making sure.
This is right around
You're not
me
sitting on nobody's lap now.
being about 7 years old. Yeah. 5, 6, 7 years old. So those are good memories that I remember from that.
Yeah, I'm trying.
See what she does?
Yo, crazy. No, that's cool, man. So, what do you guys think how do you guys feel like your parents past and your grandparents, like, how do you feel like your family history has affected you? Because, like, all of us have very little knowledge of it. So, like, do you feel like it even has any effect on us?
I mean, my mom and dad's history, yes, that has an effect on me, because, I feel like how hard that they've worked to achieve what they've achieved has really instilled in me, the beauty of hard work. Yeah, there's a downside, but the beauty of hard work. And
all right, baby.
You just threw up, you crazy. Oh, you're disgusting. Oh my God, this is great. So this is the type of stuff you want in the interview.
Hey, this is part of my family, man. You wouldn't let no dog lick your face?
No, babe, I don't even.
Nobody knew that.
I don't even let her lick my face.
You definitely got to edit that.
No, don't believe it. No, the way everything she puts in her mouth, I don't think so. This little girl. But yeah, he is a dog lover though. So, but I forgot what we were saying.
No, you were just talking about your family.
How's your heritage affected you?
So yeah, so my mom and dad. Because my mom knew she didn't want to have her family, her personal, offspring being raised like she was, and my dad knew he always wanted more. So in that, I think they put pressure on me to always be conscious of, making sure that I have what I need, and I'm preparing myself for success in this life.
I would say that, depending on how you grow up and your experiences really determines like the outcome of how you see the world even today, but also you going through childhood and just maturing into who you are today plays a big picture. I know with my family, certainly experiences of love and compassion for one another is really at the forefront. Obviously there's pressures, not necessarily pressures, but there's motivation to be successful, and you have to ask yourself at what expense, right? Everyone doesn't have the same drive as others, but I think now in today's world, per se, in the Black community, I think everyone wants to be a chief as opposed to just someone who's a part of the tribe and wanting to see other people flourish.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that plays a big impact in how we're able to progress as a community when you see other cultures able to, have a sense of humbleness collectively. If there's a particular individual who has a path, maybe take a step back and follow that path, knowing that in the long term, everyone is going to be a success. That's what I feel that we can do now as people in the African American community.
Do you feel like you built that community in your family? Because you talk a lot about family, how you and like how you spent a lot of time with your family and getting to know them all the way up to the grandparents. And even that, just knowing you, it seems like you guys stay close and connected and do exchange that. And even in yourself, you're trying to build that, now. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm ambitious, but I know that my main focus is to make sure I'm happy in all accounts, and I want to make sure that my priority is to be happy, whether it's my successes professionally or socially, within my marriage, or even within my friends. Whatever I could do to help other people is my primary focus, but making sure I take care of mine being my wife, soon to be kids when we decide to have them, and pass that down. A lot of, like I mentioned, for example, Nipsey Hussle, who just passed, he's a source of the community of South Central LA. And you have people who are greedy that aren't seeing the big picture that he had, or other successful African Americans who've paved the way. They really need to come together and let people lead, and then take a step back, knowing that the long-term goal is to bring everybody together.
Yeah, that's good.
I think in our community in general, that really will kind of solidify where we go.
Yeah.
And hopefully there's a lot learned from, his passing, others who've passed, where they see other cultures, for example, the Asian culture, or even the Jewish community, where they actually have each other's back in all capacities. In our culture, it's, from what my experience, not my personal experiences, but just talking to other people, it's more looking at getting your own. And I think that's pressure that people have by maybe kicking their kids out of the house at a certain age, but really, ultimately, it's putting them in debt, as opposed to letting them show you your vision and wanting them to succeed outside of what maybe our parents' experiences were. Go to a job, 9 to 5, work hard for the same company. That's not everyone's passion.
Right.
Just like our school systems, that's really putting us in a bad place. You have these, and I'm kind of getting off topic. It's just holistically looking at how things get better, but that's really how I see, how us as a people being African Americans could really flourish. Is a sense of unity and community.
Yeah. Which is not built in based on the past.
Right.
So in that, I would say that our community, the Black community, didn't have the opportunity to come from different countries our past is built here. It's not built in Asia or somewhere else, And I feel that with Asians being able to come from another country to this country, they've brought a past with them, and other ethics that are how do I know?
No, you're right.
How do I? Okay.
They brought a culture with them.
Exactly. And so they've fused the American culture with their culture and created something of their own. The Jewish community, they've been able to flourish throughout many years, and they've arrived to where they are because of a lineage, whereas we are just just my fondest memories are going to the museums with my mom and to plays with my mom and stuff. She really worked to bring a little different side than what she experienced. Yeah.
I would say some of my best memories were really related around sports. As far as teaching me leadership, understanding how to interact with other people, dealing with different personalities. There's always gatherings that we would come. People would come over the house, and we'd play sports in my backyard, playing basketball on birthdays, or even going down to the park. In our generation, kids played outside. Kids don't play outside now. They're stuck with the sticks playing video games. So just kind of not having to worry about the world outside of just being a kid, where you can just go outside and play freely. Growing up, everyone wanted to come over to my house as a kid because I had this big wheel that was real popular back in the day, and I lived on a hill at the bottom of a hill, and we'd take my big wheel all the way up, and we just fly down on the big wheel, two on the back, and then we'd be flying, going about, at that time, which was fast, like 15, 20 miles an hour, just flying down, and just loving the game of baseball. We'd also play stickball, which is pretty much known in New York, but we played stickball in the street, and just kind of just being freely roaming around the local dairy, getting some candy or getting some food. So that's what I really love. I also mentioned growing up in the countryside, not growing up in the countryside, but visiting my grandmother in New Jersey, and then riding up the turnpike to Pennsylvania. Just sharing stories with my grandfather and also my grandmother, and just embracing change of the city life to the countryside has always been a great experience for me.
I do have to admit, when we used to go to take road trips, my mom, my dad, and I take road trips down to our family reunion in Louisiana. Those were pretty fun. I do have to admit that part, yeah.
So you guys take any traditions that you guys grew up with your family and you practice them now, and you guys hold on to them, the stuff that you did when you were little?
Kwanzaa, that's something I celebrate on and off. Like growing up, my mother and my father were big into Kwanzaa. That's just something that we'd probably celebrate more as we have kids and kind of embrace it and kind of share those experiences. But that's definitely something that we would have every year, that we'd celebrate Kwanzaa right before Christmas, right around Christmas time. That was cherished as a kid growing up all the way through high school. And we had a local family group called Council of African American Parents within my city of Diamond Bar. And that's where my base of friendships came into play, because people I grew up with from childhood, recreational sports, all the way through high school, and even some through college, was established as a child in Diamond Bar. You had about maybe 10 to 12 families that joined that organization and had each other's back. In Diamond Bar, primarily the Asian demographic, and there's a select amount of, lower percentage of African Americans there, and those African Americans within the city of Diamond Bar were very close. So that bond between the families, and obviously the parents had kids, we grew up together, and that's really where that foundation was established within my experiences from a childhood at that point.
Okay.
The foundation of us raising kids is going to be around exposure, right?
Yeah.
Making sure that they're open-minded in all capacities. Obviously embracing our culture as African Americans, but also being receptive to other cultures, right? I think me growing up in a suburban community keeps me open-minded and understanding the emotions of others and how they grew up, and accepting them for who they are. That's one of the advantages, I believe, as far as growing up in a suburban town.
Yeah.
So within our family, exposure, taking them to museums, taking them traveling, being adventurous, making sure they're creative, just making sure they have a balanced life between obviously academics as well as the arts, and really making sure that whatever they're interested in, making sure we embrace their interest and support them.
How are you going to tell them, and how are you going to help them identify themselves, like who they are, like as African Americans? How do you plan on doing that?
You want to take that?
No, go ahead.
Making sure that they showing. That's where the documents and photos of past history comes into play, as far as their parents, their parents being us, their grandparents, and also their great-grandparents, kind of sharing stories about who they are, what they've done in their life, what values they've instilled in us, which obviously their parents, and really just shedding light on who's come before them. Historical figures, Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King, Sojourner Truth, really embracing who they are, making sure that they're confident in the way they look, how they carry themselves, not being ashamed of what others outside of the community may share with them. I think exposure is just the main thing, not keeping anything hidden, and whatever questions they have, being open and honest about that. obviously depending on what age they are, and then kind of expounding from there is important.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of that, I think how my mother kind of instilled my heritage and who I am in me, I would probably assist my husband in doing the same, and that is taking them to the African American museums, reading them the stories from our ancestors. Those that came before, like Jackie Robinson, and those, just showing them, hey, there are amazing people in our community. So please, while we are surrounded by others, just know that you too are a very important part of this American culture. And I want them to know that for them to have the freedom to search for who they are, not me telling them, hey, you're a black strong woman, da 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 da. No, yes, you are strong and you're black, but who are you to yourself? Who do you feel that you are? And then I also just encourage them to just seek more, seek to better yourself. So
is there anything you guys are working on that you plan on, that you don't mind sharing or coming out with? And you talk about entrepreneurship, and you guys talk about financial literacy. What do you guys have planned for yourself as far as manifesting that vision that you guys put out in the video?
Oh, well, Justin has, through his work in the financial industry, Justin has started us off with investments, because to be completely honest, I started investing in my 401k, and my dad's like, you don't need to do that right now. Wait a minute, sir. Yeah, you do. You do. Not right now, but a couple, years ago. And I'm like, yes, you do. How do you think I'm going to be able to retire, just by investing in a year and retire? No. So Justin has set not only us up, but our future family up with retirement. For us, College American funds, and for us with investments in mutual funds, and he's continuously, wanting to look at our funds and look at our my 401k, which I'm not the best when it comes to finances at all. But he's continuously wanting to set a foundation and a structure for us to be able to, in the future, become financially independent, where we may not need to have to work until we're 70, 80, like some people have to do, So, what else?
Yeah, I'm also I've developed interest into the trucking industry. It's not the most appealing and attractive industry, but it's lucrative if it's managed correctly. So I have a good friend who's been in the business. He's been successful and has shared stories. He worked in corporate America and made his transition out. And it's really that level of risk, kind of weeding out the conditioning that you may have gotten growing up as to what you should do, and really focusing on what you want to do to put yourself in a better place, and really living with that risk, right? So that's when Ashley is talking about the financial literacy, understanding investment options, and making your money compound, working smarter, not harder, by just putting a little more away, is a benefit in the long term. And then also really seeking what makes sense, to where you kind of go with your instinct, go with your gut feeling. I think that really is what's gonna not only lead ourselves but other people in the right direction. Not settling for what's comfortable, but doing something that is uncomfortable. Being comfortable being uncomfortable is a common term used that I hear regularly, and it really applies. So I think that's very important.
And lastly, the financial piece of it helps not only to save for the future, but also to fund our lifestyle that we like to travel and eat and stuff. It helps fund it. So I would say I'm 100% on board. It's just that I may not know all the terminology and stuff. So, and I may not understand what he's doing, but it has it has paid off so far. So yeah. All right, I think that's it.
It wasn't as painless as it sounded.
I feel that we, actually, I take that back. With the natural hair movement, and I don't want to say a movement because I hope it's here to stay, but with natural hair and other types of, I don't want to say Afrocentric either, because then that feels like it's a movement too.
There's different words.
Yeah,
like
but
thought.
exactly. But those types of
You can say African American cultural movements.
okay, African American cultural movements. I feel that they help to diminish the popular thought of what black is. The rap and Beyonce, stereotypical, thank you. I'm losing my words right now. But yeah, and I feel that they are helping to kind of shed light as to what it really is, whether struggle, our success, they celebrate who we really are, Exactly. Whereas Beyonce, Rihanna, whoever, they just glorify, they add to the exploitation, and I don't think that's right.
Is there any examples of like cultural movements that you were interested in or a part of, or really really fuck with, you know what I mean, to the point where like I want to be a part of that, like I really dig what they're doing, I love the message, like, you know what I mean? Any books that have kind of hinted towards something?
Well, we read books. Well, I wouldn't say, because I feel like I'm a drummer that marches to their own beat, to be completely honest. Like, I take things from different cultures. However, like reading our cultural books in terms of like The Color of Law, or just understanding what our ancestors had to go through, and just educating ourselves. It may not be out in the world, but just educating ourselves for our children. I don't, like I said, I don't follow any one movement. I don't follow any one movement, unfortunately.
So what do you think about the natural hair movement? You mentioned it. How do you think that plays into your
Well, I'll tell you my natural hair story. Well, I was living in an apartment with a couple of my girlfriends and everything, and they were already natural. Like, they had locks and all, and I was just like, my hair was permed because my mom wanted me to have straight hair and whatever, right? And so anyway, so as I was living and understanding, wait, this straight hair, this ain't me. Like, this is not how I was born. Why do you feel you have to have straight hair? And don't get me wrong, I will straighten my hair from time to time, but why do you feel you have to have straight hair in order to be beautiful? Who told you that? And that comes from my mom and her, and her past, and things like that. And it's just like, wait a second. So one day, after I formulated my thoughts and stuff, one day I was just like, you know what? No, I want to be organically me. So I took the scissors and I just started chopping off all the straight pieces and everything. And I can show you pictures too, but and I ended up with this fro. But it was like, but of course my perm had grown out a little bit and everything, so I was able to chop it off. But I didn't even know what the big chop was back then. I just knew I chopped it off, okay? But then as I was just like, I'm gonna embrace this. As wild and as crazy as this thought may be right now, I'm gonna embrace it. I didn't realize that there was an entire female culture or even male culture that's like embracing this at that moment, because Instagram wasn't as huge as it is now. So as I started going through this process, my hair, I realized that I have beautiful hair, and I'm like, wow, like, Mom, why did you decide to mess up my hair at five years old? I put in a perm in it. I have gorgeous hair. You have gorgeous hair. You should try it, you know? And then through that helped me to really understand. I mean, not necessarily understand who I am, but accept me. You get it? Because there were so many people who were like, "Ooh, you look ugly. Ooh, why you walking around with your hair looking like that?" And it's like, wait, no, but this is my hair. It's not chemically processed. This is my hair, you know. So just through that helped me to discover more of me.
You feel like now you feel a sense of community with that, right?
Exactly. I feel embraced because not only that, when I cut my hair and when I actually understood how to take care of my hair, I inspired other women who were going through the same thing that I was going through, but afraid to cut their hair and to start over and to embrace whatever they were going through, you know? And it's just like now, 5-6 years later, they're still natural. They haven't straightened their hair not once. Meanwhile, I'm, gone through straighten everything else. But yeah, it was a process, but I loved it.
Black women in general, they're very strong-minded, strong-willed, but also supportive in every respect. So that's always something I appreciate, which is what attracted me to my wife Ashley, as far as how she interacts, her vision, her interest in kind of opened my eyes to like art and history, really going beyond what she likes to say surface level conversation.
You never went to New Orleans.
Right?
You told me that's why you want to
So those are our experiences. We transition from college into out of college, and your experiences really kind of paved the way to where I'm at now. So that's something I've always appreciated about her and our interactions. I mean, I'd say the foundation of our relationship are really based on a few things: food, travel,
Family.
and history and family. That's really what's been ingrained in our relationship, and it's kept our relationship strong. So I can always count on her, wanting to be adventurous and travel wherever you want to travel and escape into modern day society and just kind of go beyond the norm of what people tend to do. So being out here within Smorgasbord and just in the arts, you see, we're probably maybe 4 of the only people here who are African American, maybe a handful here. So, that's really been the foundation of our relationship, and what I would say has been great about the whole process. But going back to the movements, when you look at in the past, there wasn't really this movement to kind of buy property, African Americans to buy property within the same area.
And financial literacy too.
And also financial literacy. That has really picked up in communities and understanding how to make more for yourself. I mean, the image and perception of others outside of our community is really based on what they see in the airwaves. I think the only way to really control that or have some idea as to make that a better situation is to really stick together, and that the whole unity that I was mentioning earlier in our conversation. I think with the unity and understanding of supporting one another and understanding the long-term goal as to where we can go is really what's going to make that perception and image change in a more positive light, outside of what we can control, because we can't control what's filtered within the news and Instagram.
But it's funny because with that natural hair, I was like, you know what? If I don't date another person because of my natural hair, oh well, But I was just like, this is me. And then here comes my husband, and he was like, "Ooh, I loved your hair. That's what attracted me to you."
Yeah, see, you just need to find me a while ago.
Oh, whatever. So that was my turning point, where it's just like, look, you're gonna accept me for who I am. Period. Not saying that to him, but just in general society.
She's saying that to me.
No, babe, I'm not. Just in general to society, like, you're gonna accept me for who I am. The crazy, quirky, whatever. This is me. Here I am. Like it or leave it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because I think that's another thing. We as a community, we suffer from like this image issue.
Yes.
And
yes.
we don't really want to present ourselves a true person. So that's how we get suckered into like commoditization of I want to buy this, I want to spend all my money up on this. Like,
I got to keep
Yeah.
up with this person. I got to keep up, and not only that, but then the culture thing, where we'll go out and have what did we have yesterday? Udon, Japan,
No, we were in
Japanese
Japanese market.
Japanese market.
Yeah.
And of course we're the only ones there, but that's normal for us. Whereas we wanted to take someone else with us, and they were like, girl, nah, I don't know about all that, and it's just like, wait, but you don't know if you don't like it until you try it, and I'm sure you'll find something. It's a noodle. What do you not like about a noodle? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, or we'll go to like a Vietnamese spot or even an Ethiopian spot or whatever. But it's just
getting
like,
out of your comfort zone.
exactly. Yeah, you may not like everything, but just try it. You can't say you don't like it until you try it. And so yeah.
I think for me, what's been heavy on my mind is more like entrepreneurship, because it's a form of conditioning where we're conditioned, in the past, at least my experiences and parents' experiences. Like I've mentioned before, I kind of sound repetitive. Get a 9 to 5, make sure you're with the company, and really grow within that company and see if you could meet expectations to be the best top executive that you could be, as opposed to really accepting what's going to make you, what's going to fulfill you and your desires, right? So entrepreneurship, I see, is really thriving within the African American community going forward now. There's been a lot of successful people who are more open to kind of sharing their experiences and really setting a platform to how you can become an entrepreneur and be successful. Having that freedom to kind of do what you want to do on your own time, being your own boss. I think that's really really important and really necessary in order to put yourself into a better place.
Yeah.
Obviously, from a mental standpoint, psychological standpoint, that you're doing what you want to do and being progressive. As you mentioned yourself as an artist, you see yourself as an artist regardless of the financial reward, because in the long term, that is going to produce where you want to go. So that mindset I see that changing a lot within our community. Social media, Instagram in particular, has been a great outlet in really showcasing that. And I think if that continues, that's going to put people in a better place, obviously mentally and also physically, in the form of just being satisfied with their decision, whether it's a decision for happiness and hoping for financial reward, so they can put themselves in a better place for their family and friends.